My name is Twedt. I am Vice President of the Northern Triangle region for IJM and also Country Director in Guatemala. My wife Regina and I came to Guatemala 11 years ago on a legal fellowship. And during that time, the position for the Field Office Director opened up right as the fellowship was terminating, and I applied. And honestly, much to my surprise, I was offered the position. We never expected to stay here as long as we've been. We thought maybe it would be 3 years, maybe 5. It's been now 10 years almost in this position and 11 years total, including the fellowship. And it's been one of the most rewarding periods. I think the hardest thing for me has been just the very personal connection that I've had with some of the people that we've served. I saw kids, just these little tiny girls and boys come in so incredibly wounded. That was the hardest part, just to see what a person could do to a young child. The hardest part was knowing these children in their state of greatest brokenness. But the greatest joy I've had in that whole process is seeing the restoration of these children. That's been the greatest blessing that I've had in my work here, is to witness firsthand that work of God in the broken spaces. One of the experiences that was most impactful during my time here at IJM in Guatemala was a legislative initiative that we were lobbying for, we were advocating for, we were the principal proponent of in the Congress. And one of the biggest problems that Guatemala has in cases of violence against children and women, in Guatemala, every case needs to go to trial. And if every case has to go to trial and receive a verdict after a full trial, it's almost impossible for the cases to move with the rapidity that victims deserve in order to truly receive justice and for the perpetrators to be held accountable. So we sponsored an initiative. We prepared legislation that would be called like plea bargaining legislation in the United States to allow cases to be resolved in a fair manner without having to go to trial, so that an outcome could be, a sentence could be negotiated, and eliminate the cases that don't require a trial from the system so that the cases that needed a trial actually could advance more quickly toward that stage. So we had a great initiative going. We had congressional sponsors lined up, co-sponsors, sponsors, and we were moving really quickly. We had a great advocacy initiative. I think we had 10,000 petition cards that were signed by Guatemalan citizens of all stripes. And then one day, there was just this political earthquake. And while our count had showed that we were way above the total number that we needed to pass this legislation, in the course of literally like 36 hours, there was a political development and it all just fell away. And I had many nights where I just couldn't sleep, wondering how could this happen and why? It still troubles me sometimes. But when I look back at that, I see the fruits that came out of that, and you can see God in these spaces, blessing what we do and leading us in those difficult moments. And I can see the fruits that came out of that, to see what He worked out of that time. In the same period of time, in the course of advocating for this legislation, we formed these very strong alliances with legislators in the Congress. And that gave us the opportunity to actually participate in advocacy for the creation of a sex offender registry, which had never happened before. And another fruit of it was we developed relationships with the Congress people, and we supported the creation and the standing up of something that's called the Victims Institute. And I really think the creation of the Victims Institute and the standing up of the Victims Institute is one of the most impactful pro-victim, pro-protection things that has happened in Guatemala for a long time. So I look back at that dark time, and it felt really dark. I look back at that time, a time of deep, deep failure, and with the benefit of hindsight, I see how God blessed our efforts in those times, blessed us with relationships, blessed us with opportunities to advocate for other things. And in the end, you know, being involved now in the expansion of the Victims Institute, that's just benefiting right now thousands and thousands of people who need protection, and that number is going to only grow. So in the midst of failure, we can always find God if we look close enough and see where He's walking along with us, not only in the good times that we celebrate, but in the bad times, the times of failure as well.